You know this face, King Tut, the Pharaoh of Egypt, was 9 years old when he took the throne. A boy king. Have you wondered what that would be like? What would you do as a boy king, as a queen girl, a child? And would Rome ever do this? Rome was iron disciplined, grown men earning their throne, earning the purple at the head of legions and serving as magistrates. A lifetime of work. But not only will Rome match King Tut, they will beat it. One emperor crowned at age 8, another at age 4. This lesson is AD 395. At the worst possible moment, Rome split in two and handed the poor, declining half to a 10-year-old. His administration wrote the records of it. It's called the Notitia Dignitatum, where every office is in a ledger, every army, and it's all written twice. 2 separate ledgers, 2 separate lists. It's one empire on paper, but it's actually 2 rival governments. And I want to introduce you to the child who was in charge of the western half and spent 28 years hiding from it. His name is Honorius. I'm Mr. Hall. This is Ancient History. Welcome to Classical Kingdoms, where history reveals truth and wisdom for your journey, now through failure and collapse. Like a sickly Rome as a failing civilization, it's a kingdom of the divided empire. So I want to hand you a piece of the past that's worth keeping, the classical lesson about Honorius. This is lesson 68, and now we learn the reasons for the fall of Rome. We start with the child, Honorius. You won't just know what Honorius did. You'll have experienced how to think just like him, and you'll carry it into your own battles with fear. So let's begin. Over these final 5 lessons, we are performing an autopsy on the empire. And the report has 5 findings, and you'll learn these 5 reasons for the fall of Rome. 1, the body. The body splits, division and weak leadership. 2, the skin breaks, the failed borders and the barbarian invasions. The 3rd, the blood thins, the economy, the ruined money. 4th is the death. That is the 476 final emperor kicked out. And 5, the hidden disease, the one we save for the end. So now, starting with number 1, the body splitting up. The Roman Empire is splitting east and west into lots of pieces. And watch how it feeds into this next, because the body fighting itself cannot defend its own skin. January 17th, AD 395, it's Emperor Theodosius I. He dies. The city we call Milan was called Mediolanum. Months earlier, he had reunited East and West under one. He, Theodosius, would be the last man in history with this unity of our once great Roman Empire. You already know Rome's oldest sickness. If you're coming here from lesson 65, when the Senate was forced to recognize 26 different emperors in just 49 years, that was a very troubling century. You kind of look at this next century. Did they stabilize with Constantine and Theodosius? But Rome never solved one simple question about political power. When a ruler dies, who rules next? I guess they forgot about republic. There was no election. There was no law. There was no law. There was only an army that would help you decide. Whoever the legions cheered, that man wore the purple, which means the Roman military was like a branch of government. It was the only real voting branch that the empire had. If you use the republic analogy, this is not a republic, not even close, and not for a long time. Because in AD 395, The legions accepted the dead emperor's 2 sons. Arcadius is 18, and he took the east. Honorius, his brother, 10 years old, and he took the west at age 10. Do you wonder how to handle this? Ask a 10-year-old, I guess, but look at what each inherited. The east got the cities like Constantinople, the trade routes, the money. Remember the toll booth that's printing money in Lesson 67. The armies of the East were 350,000, maybe 369,000. It's the richest province. It included Egypt. They poured about 1.44 million solidi. The solidus, remember those gold coins? That's in the treasury every single year, 1.44 million. It's about the weight of a nickel, but it's almost pure gold. And Egypt's yearly haul came to 20,000 pounds of gold. That's 10 tons, roughly the weight of a city bus every year, just in gold. Now, what about the West? The West. Numidia is a province that yielded 78,000 solidi. Not a million, just 1,000, 78,000. And for that fraction of the money, the West drew the longest, most violent borders the Roman world had ever seen. The Rhine, the upper Danube River, these rivers, these are natural boundaries unless they freeze, unless you've got strong barbarians on the other side. We watched the East building its own golden firewall in Lesson 67, but this is Lesson 68, the brother that's dealing with the other side. And we have the 2 government lists to prove it. The rich government in the East, guarded by water, with a lot of gold, and the West, broken, bleeding body, with the frontiers and the internal conflicts of how do you choose the next ruler. They did not see each other, brothers, family bonds. This was a rivalry from the beginning. A child emperor means someone is actually telling the kid what to do. I asked you if you wonder what it would be like. Do you know, as a 10-year-old, you wouldn't really have much say. A child emperor means somebody's running it. Now I'll introduce you to Flavius Stilicho, the supreme military commander who's going to boss this kid around. He is Magister Militum. Magister Militum, the master of the military. He is actually half barbarian. The Vandals are one of the barbarian classes. He's half Roman, half Vandal. So this is a barbarian cavalry officer's son who married into the imperial family. That means a lot. He commanded armies and he's got connections. He's signing treaties. He's holding the frontier together. He's skilled. He's talented. And in Constantinople, the 18-year-old Arcadius, he had his own handlers too. First, the minister named Rufinus, and then a palace eunuch named Eutropius. Remember those names. They will spend some time in this lesson attacking the West. Wait, I thought we were one empire. But the trap underneath all of it is significant. These boy emperors, the brothers, were not accidents. The precedent had been set. Like Gratian was age 8 when he was emperor. Valentinian II was age 4. And Honorius is 10. A boy can't command legions against Gothic warlords. So with the troops so influential about how it passes, and command will pass, the generals are making the calls. And that means they're holding the powers as well. Remember that the army, with its influence, and the generals are in charge, and therefore These kids on the throne fear them, fear the generals. They fear the military. The West has built a machine where its own best defender was automatically the emperor's biggest threat. Could you imagine this in our Constitution today, to actually pit the executive branch versus the military branch in a mutually motivating fear of each other? Hey, you're in the Fall of the Rome lessons, the first part of it. And these two halves are splitting, not just with the power. There's a cultural split. Historians actually drew the line, the Balkan line, the Jurachek line, where the Latin speakers north and to the west of the Jurachek line, and then you have the Greek speakers south and east. So this cultural divide, this is now becoming official. The Western elite are losing their Greek parts. They're going to stop taking an interest. The Eastern elites are going to drop their Latin. So Constantinople is a Greek place, even though they're calling themselves the Roman legacy. But Greek versus Latin is very real, and they're going to see the Latin side is poor and it's doomed. So stand in the place where all of this weakness starts to take physical shape. By AD 402, Alaric and the Goths, they punch into northern Italy straight towards the capital at Milan. And the Western court takes off. They move the capital from Milan over to Ravenna, a city nature itself built like a fortress. Check out Ravenna. Ravenna has marshes all over, the salt lagoons, the shifting channels of this Padusa River. No army on earth can really drag siege engines through the swamp, and no army can really feed himself here at Ravenna. So behind the marshes, stone walls 30 feet high, the height of a telephone pole, and 8 feet thick. That's like a school bus width. These are strong walls, and behind that wall, the lifeline, the port of Classa, a naval harbor built on stilts into the lagoon with room for 250 Roman warships. Ravenna. If Italy ever fell, the emperor could simply sail away. Now put yourself in the place of Honorius. You've made it from age 10 to 17. Barbarians are inside Italy, including the famous Alaric. We'll get to him more soon. But stay in Milan, close to those frontier roads, close to your soldiers, close to the actual fight, and risk the disaster that Rome cannot survive, and that would be the capture of the emperor. If they depose the king, the emperor, it's all over. So do you move to Ravenna and hide behind the marshes where no enemy can ever reach you? That would be a choice. So militarily, the move to Ravenna makes sense. Even Stilicho backed it. Aristotle, what would he tell you about this? Courage doesn't mean ignoring the danger. The man who ignores real danger isn't brave. He's being rash. He's hiding. He's running away. But Aristotle would also point out that the other ditch is even deeper. The man who lets fear make his decisions has stopped ruling anything, including ruling himself. The move wasn't failure. The failure is what's coming next, because Honorius went. He went behind the walls at age 17, and he never truly comes back out. A wall keeps your enemies out, but it also can keep you in. You've had a moment like this, probably much smaller, but it's the same shape and it means a lot. And how did you choose? What did you do about that? What is it like to be Honorius, age 17? You're hiding behind very powerful walls. You've avoided the conflict. It's not courage. Now watch the two halves of one empire go to war without even declaring it, because the Illyricum in the Balkans, that is a prize. It's the best military recruiting ground. its strategic land. The West was desperate for its manpower, and the East refused to let it go. So when Stilicho marched a joint army into Greece to try to crush Alaric's Gothic rebellion, Alaric is powerful. He's had a good run. The Eastern minister, Rufinus, totally panicked, not about the Goths, but the fact that Stilicho was actually winning, advancing against the East, against Arcadius. So Arcadius orders Stilicho to stop the campaign, send those troops back. And Stilicho obeyed. He sent the troops back. And on November 27th, AD 395, as those returning soldiers paraded before Rufinus in Constantinople, they cut him down right in front of the emperor. Historians widely suspect who ordered the hit, the general who actually sent them. So the shadow war was going on. And next, they're going after food. Rome, the city itself, did not feed Rome. We've heard this before. The need of the grain routes, the grain supplies from Egypt, the grain supplies from the Black Sea. Hundreds of thousands of its people ate state grain. Shipped in massive fleets from North Africa, this system of state grain is the cura annone. That's giving the grains to the people, North Africa. The man controlling these fields is Gildo, Roman commander of Africa. He doesn't know it yet, but he's about to become a weapon. In AD 397, the East's new strongman, the eunuch, Eutropius, he instigates Gildo to revolt, to switch Africa's allegiance to Constantinople, and to stop the grain fleet. So do you have a sinking feeling about the West, about the East working against the West, about the political structure? One half of the Roman Empire deliberately aimed starvation at the other half, the brothers. So Stilicho acts. He strips the soldiers off the Rhine frontier. Those are the men guarding the most dangerous border on earth with all the barbarians up there. He's now shipping 5,000 elite veterans to Africa with Gildo's brother. That's 5,000 men against 75,000. And somehow the 5,000 won and the grain sailed. So Rome stays alive and eats again. But within months, the hero who accomplished this was dead, drowned at a river crossing that history calls an accident in a court where, accidents like that don't really happen. Political turmoil, fragmentation. So by AD 399, the East is really kind of making a divorce official in a very petty way by naming the eunuch Eutropius as consul, which is the most sacred office for the old republic, and the Western aristocracy erupted. That court poet, Claudian, wrote poison pen verses mocking the East, messaging against. And the West refused to even recognize the consulship of this guy. And all this time, the Rhine stood half-guarded because its defenders kept getting pulled off to deal with the emergency in Italy and the food supply. So on the last night of AD 406, December 31st, that river froze solid, the Rhine, and a massive coalition of barbarians walked across the ice. Unopposed, the door of the West simply stood wide open, and that flood of barbarians is really for the next lesson, number 69. But it shows you all of the reasons for Rome to fall. They're all interconnected. But we'll just mark that place as the door was left wide open, because now the stakes are going to climb higher. By AD 408, Alaric and his Visigoths, that's for Western Goths, they're looming over the bankrupt Italy, And he names his price to spare it 4,000 pounds of gold. 4,000 pounds. 288,000 solidi. The coins, the weight of a full-size pickup truck filled with gold, and the treasury is not able to produce it. So here's what should stop you cold, that entire ransom. Do you call it a ransom? Do you call it a hey, we'll just settle this thing now and we can save all the fighting? But that equaled a yearly income of basically one wealthy family. The money was out there. It's not that much money. Could have avoided all this. It sat behind the locked doors of private estates, of individual wealthy people. Now, what would it be like to be one of those? Do you think about keeping Alaric out, or do you even care? What's the difference? Well, think about that later. The vaults are going to stay shut. No one's paying Alaric. And so when the frontier shattered and the treasury was empty, exactly one shield stood between Alaric and Italy. Stilicho is good. He knows how to win. And don't forget, we have our young emperor still inside Ravenna. So here's what happens. August AD 408. Honorius is 23 years old. He's worn the purple for 13 years now, never once been out there with his army. Everything he knows has just been coming secondhand. Court officials, documents, the ledger. And some of those officials have kind of chosen their target. They convinced the emperor that Stilicho, the Half-Vandal, remember, Barbarian son, he's plotting to seize the eastern throne for his own son at the army base of Ticinum. A coordinated mutiny is erupting. Officers loyal to Stilicho are massacred. Now, again, put yourself in that situation. As Honorius, what do? You're Honorius. You're afraid. You've been fearful. You've been stuck inside this whole time. The men whispering in your ear have never really won a battle. Are they even helping you? The man they accuse has never lost anything, and he's the only reason that Alaric isn't inside your walls right now. Stilicho. If the whispers are false and you execute your own shield with an enemy at the door, and if what they're telling you is true and you just wait, the general's family is taking your throne. So that order lies on the table, and the choice is yours. What did he do? Honorius signs. Stilicho was arrested in Ravenna, and on August 22nd, AD 408, the greatest soldier in the Western world knelt and was executed by the government that he had spent his life defending. The Goths are mobilizing. The West is cut off by its own sword. With the Goths mobilizing, it is time to pay that bill. It's August now, AD 410. With no one left capable of really stopping him, Alaric breached the walls of Rome, the city. The Visigoths sacked the Eternal City. Rome, for the first time in exactly 800 years, had its walls penetrated, but the capital isn't there anymore. They've moved. Now Ravenna is safe behind 30 feet of stone and 100 miles of swamp. But the Byzantine historian Procopius, he tells us how the emperor received the news. The message was brought in by the court eunuch, the keeper of the poultry. Rome has perished, Honorius cries out, but it has just eaten from my hands. The emperor kept an enormous pet rooster. He named this rooster Roma. He thought the bird had died. When the eunuch explained that it was merely the city, the 800-year-old capital of the world, the emperor sighed with relief. Now historians suspect Procopius, writing a century later in Constantinople, gave us Byzantine satire. Not really a word-for-word transcript. How's that paint the picture of Honorius? Satirically, this is a mess, and that is the point of the lesson. The government, the leaders, who's running this, what's their motivations behind it? It is satirical. And that satire survives 1,100 years because it is speaking to the truth of this lesson, the truth of this, that Rome is burned. In 410, the sacking of Rome, many historians say this is it. There's nothing else really to talk about what's going on in the West. We'll cover that in the next several lessons because there is. But with Rome burning, and the Roman emperor is the man behind the wall way up north in Ravenna, and he's more concerned feeding a bird, right? Well, the fallout, the devastating consequences start with Britain. Britain is no longer a part of Rome. They're gone. What about Gaul, Hispania? They get carved up by warlords. These would be barbarian warlords, invaders, while Ravenna is just still filing the paperwork. Honorius died in AD 423. 38 years old, 28 years as emperor, not a single day in command, not a single day with courage. So how do you weigh that man, the situation? How does Aristotle help us? Aristotle taught that courage is the middle ground on that field of fear. So let's walk through it. The rash man feels no fear when he should. He'd have thrown open Ravenna's gates and charged Alaric with the palace guard, like defend the country, like fight for something. That was not Honorius. The courageous man feels the fear fully and then makes fear wait outside while judgment. The courageous leader, the emperor, or you would feel the fear. It is real. But you make that fear wait. Go somewhere else. Let me weigh the evidence. Let me weigh who's saying what and what their motivations are, and then act with courage. And what about the coward? The coward doesn't decide at all. He lets the fear just hold on and take charge of everything. Honorius basically, spent 28 years, signed away the one man that was keeping the empire alive just by staying alive. So what's the question for you when you are truly afraid? Who does your deciding? Is it you? Is it the fear? Rome does not bleed to death in AD 410. It's cut its own throat. We've got division. We've got weak leaders. We've got systems of backstabbing. This lesson should seem a bit chaotic. The Roman walls that fell so long ago, the emperor who was driven by fear, this is the falling of Rome so long ago. But this lesson, the classical lesson for us, it doesn't fall. That's what makes this kingdom classical. It's not about withstanding, although they did last quite a long time, but the lesson lasts longer. And so you've just added this more as you learn how to think and what to do in these situations. Of course, we want to look ahead to our own country. Is this the type of place where we could see something like this happen again? And be sure to check in with all of these lessons. The whole course is waiting for you at classicalkingdoms.com because this all connects. It all goes together. And this is just one lesson in the fall of Rome. So remember that frozen river in AD 406 and the thousands who came across unopposed. They never left. Their barbarians are going to be here. And that's the second part of the autopsy as the skin breaks. What do these barbarian invasions mean? Thank you for taking the time to learn something that matters in all of history, and that includes your journey, because kingdoms rise and fall, power fades, but virtue endures.